Hey guys, welcome to TTC Diva Dads, episode number 3. Can you believe it?
Wow.
3 episodes?
They haven't canceled us yet.
Not yet.
What's everyone
Cheers.
drinking?
The usual, Jameson.
What you got, Mike?
I got a stout from local Brazos Valley Brewing Company, maybe?
Ooh,
I think it is.
nice. Rodney?
Right now I have Topo Chico and orange juice
Boo.
because I spent the afternoon. Yeah, well, I mean, come on. I have to hydrate a little bit before we get to my cocktail. So, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Making healthy choices. We're so proud of
Yeah.
you.
Good for you,
How
Rodney.
about you, Adrian? What are you drinking?
Oh, I have a Moscow Mule made with Deep Eddy's cranberry vodka.
Oh my gosh, they make a cranberry?
It's my new favorite.
I'm so in trouble.
How was everybody's week?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
you know, there's work, and that's always
Yeah,
good to have
pretty good.
work. So,
Good. Well, I gotta tell you, I was at the theater most of the week working on masks and had so many theater friends come by. I got to see Mike again, Susan Hardy and her fabulous mom. I got to see Bo and Lucas and Lauren Moore and Bella Lee. They came to say hi with their masks on. And then yesterday, you guys, I got to see Parker Greer.
oh my goodness.
Oh,
I
nice.
think I saw that post on TTC, or on,
Yes.
your company's Facebook. It was awesome.
He came literally bouncing out of the car, and it was so hard not to just hug him so hard. But yeah, we are still selling masks at the theater company. I have one right here with all these wonderful ties. And then, y'all, we have a new style, thanks to Susan Hardy, with little t-shirt material so it doesn't hurt your ears.
Nice.
It's
Oh,
going to be
sweet.
fabulous.
Thank you, Susan Hardy.
Yeah, I'm starting to
Nice.
take pictures. Yeah, I'm taking pictures of all the designs so people can see all the options that they have. But if you go to theatercompany.com/masks, come get your masks because those are going to be really important for probably a very long time.
Absolutely.
What else is going on at the theater, Dana
Well,
and Mike?
we are in the process of getting out a kind of update email, if you will, to all of our patrons. We have a kind of program that we're going to quickly start to help the theater in this time where we're not having any ticket sales, to help us with our operational costs and things like that. It's called We Still Believe in Magic, a play on the theme of this year, which is do you believe in magic?
Do you
in
believe
magic?
in magic?
And the answer is
And
we do.
we do still believe in magic. And there's in this email, which some of you will probably get, there's a small little testimony from me about how theater changed my life. 100%. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the theater, but more so the relationships, more so the joy that it not only brings us people, actors, musicians on stage, crew, but also the people in the audience, the joy to see us perform. So in order to help us maintain through this kind of lull and not having any productions actually going on for the stage, we're going to ask for some help. That does not mean we are not still working. We still have rehearsals for 2 shows simultaneously, we mentioned last week. And as a matter of fact, not dance rehearsal, as I heard in the playback, it's choreography rehearsal, Dana. And we had that this week as well, and had a lot of fun trying to do that over Zoom, but it's going really great. And so that's the We Still Believe in Magic campaign that we're running right now. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, you pretty much said it all, Dana, other than the fact that we're also going to be kicking out a emailed survey. We'd like patrons or supporters of TTC to please answer. And the survey is going to be around what you would like to see post COVID-19. And we'd love your feedback. So please make sure when you see that email to not just delete it, throw it in spam, but definitely take that survey. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your voices and what we can do to help make things safe around the theater. So That's about it though.
Awesome.
And I want to do a special thank you really quick to Mike Green, who is a former board president and also just, current TTC supporter. He's also a theater dad. His son, Michael, was in shows, grew up on that stage. He did a little community spotlight on us this week. And we got to talk about the theater and what's going on. A lot of people don't know that we are still going and still rehearsing, and there's a lot happening. So thanks, Mike Green, for checking in on us and talking about us. Speaking of just checking in on theater, no real crazy Broadway news right now, but I did want to address the fact that our live theater, as opposed to theaters all over Texas, we're kind of waiting in anticipation. We were waiting for our governor to give us some information on Monday. Everyone was kind of waiting, thinking that on Monday they would tell us at least give us some sort of guideline or timeline for when live theater and live performances would be able to open. And I think Dallas Morning News had the best headline, something along the lines of Dallas theater scene awaiting news from the governor, but all they got was a rodeo. And that's exactly how I felt. We were waiting to see what we got to do, but don't panic because now there can be a rodeo. So we still don't exactly know what our timeline is for opening up our productions, but on the bright side, we did get some guidelines as far as youth camps. So in a matter of days, we kind of finished outlines for how we want to proceed with our youth camp. So anyone who's interested, by the time this is posted, you guys are going to have all the information. We cannot wait. June 1st, we're bringing them back. Kids camps are coming back.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yay.
So cool.
Rodney, you're next.
Oh, it's time for the cocktail of the week.
Yes.
All right.
Here we go.
No milk.
Oh yeah, okay. We got the vest going.
Uh-oh.
All right. So I got a lot of grief last week about milk in my cocktail.
Because it's gross.
It was delicious, but you can't account for taste on this group. So and I also thought that it was, a little blasé, So we're gonna make a cocktail today, and I call it the Divas Take Manhattan, but it's really just a Manhattan. All right, so what you need to do is you need to add ice to a glass. See how I fixed my shaker this time.
I was gonna ask.
So, yeah, I didn't mess up. That's good. Sometimes I get a little nervous when the camera's on. All right, so you're gonna need bourbon. I'm gonna stick with Maker's Mark because that's what I got in the cabinet. So you're gonna need 2 ounces of Boyben. You're going to need 1 ounce of sweet vermouth.
Ooh. Dana's out.
I don't clear these drinks with Dana for a reason. All right. You need a couple of dashes of Angostura aromatic bitters. I probably
well said. No, that was good. That was good.
Okay, good. And of course, you take your handy. You can also put some orange bitters in there, but I don't have any, so we're just gonna go with this. And you shake.
Mastered the shaker this week! Yay! Ooh.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it worked.
That was a point right there. Gotta be.
What? You gotta add a little flavor to your shake.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
Ooh, look at that pour.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the mini martini glass and everything.
It's not a mini martini glass. It has a name, sir.
Okay.
I don't know
clearly.
what it is, but it's not mini martini. Dang it, I can't open it. Mandy! She's not listening to me. It's a new jar. All right, it's not going to get a cherry today, but there's your Divas Take Manhattan. I can't get a stupid jar open.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That actually looks really good. I would drink that.
Okay, good.
Definitely.
I'm glad.
Is it okay, Rodney? Is it
All
good?
right, I'm done. Delicious. Very easy. As soon as my hands dry.
Okay, we are going to move right into our guest. But before we let him on, I have to tell a quick story about Roger Pine. Roger Pine's been around the theater since 2008. Go ahead and check our Facebook page for his bio. Roger's first show was Spelling Bee, and we got to know him, and he was a really great guy. He was so funny, so much fun. But it really wasn't until Spam-A-Lot that I kind of got to know what kind of a guy Roger really was. And I have to tell you, we had one choreography day. I choreographed that show. Turned out to be crazy because after day one of Tech Week, I broke my foot and had to pull out of the show and have surgery opening night. But there was a lot of choreography. If you're familiar with Spam-A-Lot, based on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, lots of choreography. And there was one day that myself and Nanette Pope, our fabulous music director for that show, we couldn't get this one dance break to work. The timing, we tried so hard, and it's when all the knights go to Camelot, to the casino, and it's this crazy dance break, and they would learn it, but every time we tried to put it with the music, it just wouldn't work. And I completely had a meltdown. And after 10 times of trying it, not being able to make it work, I literally sat down on the runway and cried, because that's the kind of pressure I was under. And, you know, we called it, but we did come back the next day and we fixed it. We figured out what the issue was and everything was fine. And it was this amazing number. But I'll tell you what Roger Pine did. Roger Pine went to the store, got a whole bunch of flowers, and before I got to rehearsal the next day, he gave every single person in the cast a flower, so that when I walked in, every single person in the cast said, "Hey, thanks." And everyone gave me a flower to kind of make sure they knew that, hey, we all had a tough rehearsal, but thanks. And that's the kind of guy that Roger is, the guy that goes through to all this trouble to make sure that our volunteers know how appreciated they are. And we love him for that.
That's amazing.
So,
Absolutely.
without further ado, here's Roger Pine.
Awesome.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
Roger. We can't see you yet.
What happened to my video?
Uh-oh.
You were unable to start your video because the host has stopped it.
No,
Uh-oh.
no, I have not stopped it.
Oh,
So we can edit this out. Without further ado,
no, I think we should keep it. I think
here's
we should
Roger
keep it.
Pine.
Hey, Roger!
Roger.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it
friends.
going, Roger?
Going great. I miss y'all. I'm glad to see you virtually, but one day I'm going to see y'all in person. It's going to be great.
One day, man, it's gonna happen. So how do you feel about being a guest on Diva Dads?
It's the culmination of like a 3-week lifelong dream. Once the show began, it became a lifelong dream, and I backdated it to the beginning of my life. So yes, I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Where do you go from here, man? What happens now?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's great to see y'all. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for keeping us all engaged and seeing each other's beautiful faces and voices.
Absolutely.
Well, we
We're
have
so
some
glad to have
questions
you.
for you, kind of from us and also from some of your fans from our Facebook world. But first off, before we really ask you any deep, dark questions, you know, about your inner purpose, I would like you to spell the word Catterjoons.
See, it's a trick question, but I believe it's Catterjoons.
I don't really know, so I'm going to applaud you and say yes.
An old Nantucket whaling term, I believe, Adrian.
And if you're not sure, that is one of the loud words that was proclaimed by Roger in the middle of the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which was Roger's first show.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to ask you your first question, and this one's tough. This one is really tough, partially because I'm asking it on behalf of my other Adrian Rowell, and it applies to both of us. But Adrian would like to know, out of all the people that you've performed with, who is your favorite stage wife?
Yeah. I saw that question. You know, there's an old saying that your stage wives are like your children, and you love them all equally, but in different ways. You buying that?
If you were to say your favorite.
Okay, but I had to choose one. I mean, I got to go with Paul Early, who is Sancho to my Quixote in Man of La Mancha.
Nice.
Nice.
He's going to feel so good about that.
Thank you.
That's really special. Good answer. Nice pivot.
Thanks. Yeah. Also you, Adrian.
All right. Thank you.
Although was the relationship consummated? Well, it was consummated. Was there a marriage in the show where we were paired up?
In Young Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sequel.
Okay. Great.
Younger Frankensteins, which is the story of their children.
Oh, I never saw that. Okay. Great.
I'm going to make it up.
I had to carry Adrian. I was wearing these like big platform shoes that were 2 sizes too big. And I had to carry Adrian over my shoulder. And I don't think
she was wearing green makeup and I was in a white dress.
Yeah, I don't think she felt secure in that scene at all. We got there.
My width is a lot bigger than the width of his shoulder. All right, who is next?
Well, we got another question here from the gallery. Keith, the high-flying Keith Owen asks, how do you balance work, theater, and family?
Well, I'm very privileged to have a supportive family, and I'm privileged to be in a job where the hours are what they are. You know, I know there's a lot of people where it's more of a struggle. You know, they may work evenings and things like that, and they're trying to get as many hours as they can. I've been fortunate, and that's not been an issue for me. My kids have grown up in the theater too, so I made sure to involve them in something that I enjoy doing, and they see me interacting with other people who respect me and I respect them. And so for me, like, I don't try to make them separate. I think that's the key, is like my family and the theater are one. And my work is a little bit different. Although that said, half the people working for me have been through the theater at one point or another. So
I'd like you to expand on that.
Yeah. I mean, I've probably like signed the paychecks of like half a dozen theater folk over the years. And I'll tell you what, like I tell people in my network professionally, consider hiring theater people. I mean, I think actors we're kind of thought of as being flighty sort of people, but though everyone on this call has seen actors at their best, you know, at the 2 nights before we open, just working for no pay, you know, whatever it takes. People have to rely on each other to an extent that you don't get to do a lot of times professionally. And so having seen these people at their best, for me, a lot of times it's a no-brainer to hire them. And they always are able to succeed in the workplace. You know, sometimes a traditional workplace isn't always what they want out of life, but that's okay. Sometimes for 1 or 2 years, you can get a lot of great value and give a great experience to an actor. So for anyone watching here who's in the opportunity to hire an actor or a theater tech person or anything, do it. You will not be sorry. I promise you.
Who do you have working for you now?
2 people, Brandon and Madeline, that I know of, maybe some others. I share an office with Mike though. So like all I see all day, the only humans are theater people, which is exactly the way I like it, frankly.
We have this kind of like side thing where it's like a Shark Tank at the place where we're eventually gonna buy the building, was it a gym in there? Maybe some other theater folks. It's gonna be like Wall Street, man.
It's like that now. Yes. When Mike ever shows up, it's almost like that.
First diva burn of the night from the guest. I love it.
All right.
All right. So we've got. Can you hear me? I was muted for a while because I had some puppy issues. My dog found a squirrel on the other side of the fence, and she was losing her mind. So sorry about that. But Taylor Christensen wants to know, first of all, will you adopt her? And then she also wants to know, what show could you have done forever? So
happily, yes, I would adopt Taylor. What show could I do forever? You know, we did, when we did Les Miserables, we did it for 3 weeks. And that was kind of a rough, the rehearsal process was stressful for that. We didn't have a stage and stuff like that. We were like building stuff up to the last minute. And that was a show that, I mean, the music was beautiful. The cast was incredible. And we started out great and the show just kept getting better and better every night. And it really felt like we had a runway ahead of us where we could have done that one for months on end, and I would have never gotten bored of it. There are shows where sometimes you're in it and you're like, okay, I'm ready to stop. You look back and you wish to do another couple shows, but that's one I probably could have done for another several months without getting tired of it. Beautiful show.
I concur. I know some of the wives from that show, some of the wives of the actors watched it almost every time and would have kept paying to see it over and over again.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it had great music, and because we had such a rough rehearsal period, like there was a little bit of friction and stuff in places. But then once we were in the show, it was one of those shows where there were so many quick changes that all of us had to change in the back hallway. So we all had hooks along the back hallway. The whole cast was doing quick changes together and like moving mics, and there was a level of teamwork in that show that I haven't seen. It had to be at a whole other level with just the complexity of the show itself and the harmonies we had to sing, and it's just beautiful. You know, that's why we do what we do. Is moments like that is wonderful.
I don't know if you guys heard this, but the other beautiful thing was that the way he pronounced.
Les Misérables, oui, yeah, Les Misérables.
Roger does speak French. He's not just being snooty.
I'm a poser for sure.
I hear him. Is it every Tuesday, Roger? Is it the lessons you have, or?
I was supposed to go to France 2 weeks from mid-June to do a 2-week immersion program, which of course got canceled sadly. So yes, I was studying for that, and now that's not going to happen. But maybe next summer, and I'll be able to say Les Misérables even better than before. So, yeah. I did play Lumiere, too, for Adrian in Beauty and the Beast. So there I got to do a French accent speaking English. That was good practice, too.
Good.
Awesome. All right. So Shannon Van Zant wants to know how you choose what shows you do, since you only do a couple a year.
I used to have a foolproof system, which is I would ask Adrian. And Adrian would tell me what to do every single time, and she was always right. She had a lot. She knew Randy really well, and she knew which shows he might kind of phone in a little more, or which ones he really was into, and so I really relied on her. And now she's not. Now she's biased, so I can't trust her judgment anymore.
I'm selfish.
I love doing comedies. You know, so if there's a comedy, I'll try to make it happen. I do like to go out for shows that are kind of meatier from an acting perspective too. But you know, I also love doing shows when my kid can do a show. So
we lost him for just a second.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, there you are. You're back.
Yeah.
No, but that's a good answer. And I will admit that now I am selfish. So anytime I need you in a show, I will tell you, hey, you should do all of them. But on that note, you are going to soon be playing the father of the groom, and It Should Have Been You.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. And that's
is a comedy and a comedy.
It is a comedy, yeah. And what's interesting about that show, what I love about comedies in particular is, well, I mean, there's shows like Spam-A-Lot that are totally just silly, but a lot of times comedy have those, just a few of those moments where you kind of show the audience a bit of humanity, and this show definitely has that.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I think from an acting perspective, I like those contrasts. So I think this one will be an interesting one, and I think the character I'm playing has some of those moments that could be really interesting. He shows some vulnerability in certain places that I really think should be fun. We'll see how it goes.
And has a tap solo. We all win.
And has a tap solo, yes.
What?
Sure.
You tap, Roger?
I mean, I don't know.
He tapped on we saw the video last week. He tapped up a chimney for Mary Poppins.
That's true. Yeah, that was thanks to Adrian. I you know, in the hands of a good choreographer, it can happen. That's true. He knows my limits.
All right, Mike, you're next.
All right, this next question, Roger, is from Keith Owen. If you could reprise any role, what would it be and why?
So sometimes I think about that. I think it'd be really interesting to go back to a role and see how you do it a second time. I've never done that. I know some actors have done that. They've been in theater long enough. They've had the chance to do that. The show that really comes back into my brain is actually Tarzan.
Ooh.
Tarzan really surprised all of us who were involved in it. I mean, we didn't go in with great expectations of what it would be. In fact, the theater company kind of got it as a consolation prize when we didn't get the rights for Mary Poppins, if I understand the story correctly.
Yep.
But the music was incredible. Visually, it was stunning. The costumes were amazing. The role that I played was really an interesting role. He was the father, the ape father of Tarzan. And so I wasn't even playing a human, so that was interesting. And then also he had a great solo in it, but also he, from an acting perspective, he had to be very strong for his tribe, but then he had these moments of vulnerability in private moments. And just from an acting perspective, I thought that was a really interesting and fun role. And again, I love the music and I love the people in it. You know, if I could get the same people in again, that'd be even better. So yeah, it's kind of weird that that's the one that comes to mind, but in my mind, you know, that's the one that just would love to do a couple more weeks of that one maybe. Although when I was in it, you know, that's an example of one when I was in it, I was ready for it to be over because it was physically very punishing. I had to get body slammed by Scott Mills every single night. And I was just, you know, we were just all beat up in that show. So now that I'm healed, I'm ready. And 10 years older, maybe not ready, but.
That show was an anomaly because I got to tell you, that's a show that comes up a lot from a lot of other community theaters as one not to do. That's one that consistently at other theaters is you think it's going to be really successful and it's often a dud. And we were the exception. That show was a little daunting and then it turned out to be beautiful. You mentioned Scott. He was so perfect. Derek, Cynthia was your wife. Fabulous cast. And it was this really special group of people and it was a huge success. Kids loved it. Adults love it. So I'm glad that we were the exception and that was a really great production for us.
Yeah, you're right. I have a friend who lives up in Lubbock and after we did Tarzan, I was telling her about it. You know, it was like, this is an incredible show. And then it came to Lubbock, I guess on a tour or something about a year later. And she took her kids to it. And she's just like, I didn't get it at all. I was like, what, really? And she's like, I didn't get these people in yarns. Are they apes or what? And like, I don't know. For some people, it just doesn't land. I thought it was incredible. I loved it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Nice. So this next question is from Peanut Gallery, but I will say we have, Rodney, Diva Rodney, Dana, and Adrian and myself were all Topo Chico fans. So much so we have a private Facebook group of Topo Chico. Question is, are you a Topo guy?
Not the flavored ones. You know, sparkling water has been a very interesting, it's like you hear about toilet paper, but you haven't heard about the sparkling water thing happening in this pandemic. Because my brand is the HEB unsweetened lime. And it's just never there. And so I did get a Topo Chico lime, which was too much. So, but the non-flavored, yeah, it's fine. But, you know, it's sparkling water. Let's not get too carried away here, Mike.
I'm just a little passionate about it, you know.
Yeah, that's fine.
So you can't be invited into the group, but we appreciate your answer.
I can handle that. It's good. I'll join my own HEB unsweetened lime group.
Crazy. All right. This question is from Shannon Van Zant. What is your dream role?
I mean, honestly, there's nothing left in my bucket list of roles. Part of it is I don't know enough about theater to know maybe there's something out there that would be awesome. But I've done all of my dream roles, honestly. I mean, I got to be Bert and Mary Poppins, and I got to be anything in Les Mis, a show that I grew up with. I don't know. I got to be Don Quixote and Man of La Mancha, Sweeney Todd. I don't know. Like, there's nothing on my bucket list that's not out there. So as far as I know, because like I said, I don't know a lot about theater. Like a lot of those I didn't even know were good until I was in them. So I don't know. I mean, I like those. I kind of like those older shows where the baritone was usually the lead instead of like the tenor. And so maybe there's more of those out there. That'd be great to do. But I don't know enough to to be able to answer that. Sorry, Shannon. I'm just waiting for Adrian to tell me what my dream role is, and I'll just do it.
Diva
But
Bird.
then you sometimes don't audition when I tell you to.
Yeah. Actually, no, that's not. I do love the George Washington song in Hamilton, the One Last Time song. I would love to sing that song, but I don't have to do it in a show. Just go up and sing it on the stage sometime. So I might have like bucket list songs I'd love to sing.
I
More
don't
than
think
roles.
that show is for you.
Probably not.
I don't think they let your kind in Hamilton.
Fair enough.
All right, Dana's next.
All right, I've got a question from Allison Godwin. She says, what has been the most challenging role, and then what has been your favorite? I think we heard your favorite, but what's been your most challenging?
Challenging. I think I can two come to mind. So when I was in Man of La Mancha, the role itself on paper is actually kind of challenging. It's 3 people. I didn't really have too much of a trouble with that role. One thing that was a little different was the director, who was Randy Wilson. He had played that role, and it was very special to him. And so I know that during the filming process, during the rehearsal process, I was aware of how special that role was to him, and how sometimes he might have thought I wasn't respecting it right in certain places. This was very on in the rehearsal process, and we kind of joked about it at the beginning of Sweeney Todd. He said, "Oh boy, now you're in another role that I was in." But again, that was very minor stuff, but that was different. That was something I wasn't used to. It was a different hand from the director. The one that really comes to mind is actually, I was in a show called A Little Night Music, and what was the guy's name? Frederick Eggerman? Eggerman? Okay, that was the name of my character, who I remember so well. And the role, what was hard about that role is like the writing of the show was a little challenging. It wasn't the most coherent plot and character development and dialogue, and so you have to make something out of it the best you can. And another thing was, I think at the beginning, Randy wanted me to play that character as more of a kind of a ladies' man sort of guy, and that's not me. And so I kind of found my version of him, which was more of a kind of winking at the camera sort of goober, not a goober, but like he was confident, but he was kind of in on the joke that his life was out of control. And that worked better for me. But that was a challenge in the first couple of weeks, as I was trying to figure out who that guy was and how it worked for me. And that was a case where I was really appreciative of the director. He had an idea, and I kind of went in a different direction, and he just let it happen. And I wish I could know what was in his mind as that shift was happening, but he let it happen. And I'm glad, because I think the character worked in the end.
That's also a show that you would not have auditioned for had I not forced you.
Absolutely. I was like, who is Stephen Sondheim? I remember a week before the show, I had friends in town, and I was like, yeah, I think I might do this show. And everyone likes Stephen Sondheim. And they're like, you don't know who Stephen Sondheim? I had no idea who he was. And then a week later, I'm in his show. But yeah, that was Adrian, because Adrian said, Randy loves this show. It's going to be a special experience. And she was right. You were right. It was a very special experience. Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. I have a question here from our local celebrity, Jennifer Hargis. She wants to know, how does it feel to be in the local celebrity club as their newest member?
Oh my. Are there dues for this? Because I ain't paying any dues. I'm happy to remain anonymous if there are dues. It is kind of funny, like especially when you do kid shows, people like, oh yeah, you were Captain Hook, right? Like, that's kind of interesting when you get that. And I still get older people saying, hey, weren't you Sweeney Todd 5 years ago or whatever it was? And that's kind of fun. You connected with somebody,
So you still feel good about being a local celebrity? The fans haven't been too much for you?
They have not been too much for me. it's kind of nice to know someone was there. It's not the celebrity part. It's just you want it. You do a show and you want someone to be there, and I think people don't realize what it's like for us actors. Like when that one friend of yours is like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to make it," and they don't make it. They don't realize like what it means for someone to be at the show, whether they loved it or not. But just for someone to be there and see what you put together is really special. And so when you hear that someone was there, whether or not they say you were good or not, is to me very, very rewarding, I think.
I have another question from Keith Owen. He says, what shows would you like to see TTC do in the future? But I have my own caveat.
Uh-huh.
You cannot say Starlight Express.
I mean, I'm the wrong guy to ask on this stuff, man. I don't know anything about shows. I mean, I like doing Spam a lot. We could do that again in a couple years. Help me out, Adrian. I don't know.
If you don't know the answer, what he really wants to say is Starlight Express.
Oh, Starlight
Roger
Express.
has a deep love for Andrew Lloyd Webber's Starlight Express.
You know, I was trying to think where that started because I knew that would come up during this. And like, where did it start? When did Starlight Express start as like our running gag?
Don't ask me. I would never willingly bring up Starlight Express. This is all you, dude.
Yeah, but yeah. I have seen that show, and it is good.
Is it your affinity for roller skating?
Yeah, I'm sure that's it. I just have a thing. No, it's just it's such a unique show. I saw it years ago, and it's a total Andrew Lloyd Webber show. Like, it's like 8 hours of people just introducing themselves, just characters coming in and saying, this is the name of my character. It's like, that's like 80% of the show. And it's like, the set was designed by someone on acid. But it does have some really cool songs. And he does that whole thing where it's songs from different genres and stuff. I mean, it's a total Andrew Lloyd Webber joint, but it's good.
Is it something you love because, like you said, you have very little knowledge of shows? Is this because it's one of the handful of shows you've seen?
And that you haven't.
You saw it.
I saw it and you haven't. I'm holding it over you as a thing I know about theater that you don't.
I think I can live with that.
That's fine.
Did you say there was roller skating in the Starlight Express? I have not seen it either.
The whole show's on skates.
So wait, okay, so Xanadu? Like, are you familiar with Xanadu?
We'll do Xanadu first, not Starlight Express.
That would be amazing because it's all on roller skates. No, I'm just
And happily for us, our stage is completely flat. I mean, no little bumps, no edges to catch on your. I mean, yeah.
You took
that personally? Wait, I'm talking about the stage. That's not you.
It is personal.
Okay,
it's personal. Okay. All right. I have another question from Shannon Van Zandt. Obviously, one of Diva Dad's most devoted journalists, because she's got great questions. You've kind of addressed this, but she would like to know, have you ever been cast in a role that you weren't going for?
No. And the reason for that is I don't go for roles.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
I came to theater in my 30s. All right. And so I am just grateful to be there. And so I take anything and I trust the judgment of the director. And there have been shows where I've been the lead and there have been shows where I haven't been the lead, and the director, at least in my experience, has been right every time. So I don't complain about it. I work with what I got, and it's, that's partly a defense mechanism, right? Because if you don't go for a role, you can't be disappointed, to be honest, but I really don't. And the most I'll go for a role is like in an audition. If I know it's like an intense show, I'll do an intense song. And if it's like a funny show, I'll do like a lighter-hearted song. But that's about the extent to which I do it, because I would rather trust the judgment of someone else and let it happen.
Well done.
Brilliant.
Adrian's not believing it for a second. No director believes that from any actor.
From you, I actually do believe it. From most people, I don't. But from you, I genuinely do. Probably because for most auditions, you won't know the show, so you don't even know what role to go for.
That is accurate. That is accurate. Most of the shows I've been in, the first time I've heard the show is in the callbacks when we're reading scenes from the show. And the first time I've heard the songs is an hour before callbacks when I'm listening to the song in my car on the way to callbacks.
Perfect.
So But that's part, honestly, that is fun for me. Like I enjoy, like we joke about how I don't know anything about theater. Like for me, part of the fun is the discovery of the character when I'm in the character. Like I feel like if I were to study the character and the role beforehand, then I might just be a caricature of someone else's version of it. And that just wouldn't be as fun for me. That's just me mimicking someone else. And so I find it really intellectually stimulating to read the character, read those lines. There's one line in It Should Have Been You that I have I've thought about for like 3 weeks because I can't tell if it's sarcastic or sincere or a joke. You know the one I'm talking about, Adrian?
The one about the 50%
They last.
marriages?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go for it.
And so like, yeah, those are the things I want to figure it out. And if I get it wrong, the director and I can work on it. But, if I'm just watching some dude on YouTube come up with it, I don't know. Maybe the audience will get the wisdom of crowds of the best way to do it, but they're not going to get my way of doing it. So.
Good answer. Mike, I think you're next.
Alrighty. This next question, Roger, is from Stephanie Huddleston. What has been the role you originally detested but grew to love?
Oh man, I detested. Adrian, help me out. Was there a role where it seemed like I wasn't happy in the role at the beginning?
That's a great question. I don't know. I will say probably the closest thing I can think of to you detesting a role is probably Young Frankenstein. And not that you detested the role, but that was a show that Randy had precast. So we all kind of came into it knowing that it was like we now do Rocky Horror, where it was on a really condensed schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but as opposed to Rocky, Young Frankenstein is a massive production with a whole lot going on and huge dance numbers, but we had to pull it off in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are no roles that I start off detesting. That's probably a good example. I mean, because I'd come off of Spam-A-Lot and then Les Miserables, and then Young Frankenstein, and so I was pretty burnt out there. But I don't know. I mean, it's such a privilege to be able to do this stuff. I mean, I have fun from the night of auditions through to the very last cast party because, I don't get to do this often. And so, man, don't detest the role if you're in it. Just be glad you got it, frankly, because not everyone gets to do this stuff with us.
Wish everyone had that attitude. Most people.
Well, deep down we do. I mean, like, no one's getting paid there. We're doing it because we love it. And the audience can tell we love it. Sometimes, yeah, there's egos, and sometimes you want to be a different situation. But deep down, we keep coming back because we love doing it.
Yeah. All right, Mike.
Alrighty, and got another question here from Cynthia Bradford. Roger, are you aware there's a leading ladies of Roger Pine Club? And would you care to share your thoughts on that?
I've heard about that club. Is that like the Topo Chico club? Are they different clubs or same club?
Totally different clubs.
Totally different.
Different clubs.
Topo Chico, Roger Pine.
Got it. Okay. No, I'm aware. It's not creepy. It's not creepy at all. No, it's great. I mean, it's great. I love, Cynthia and I had just a beautiful duet in Tarzan, going back to Tarzan. And so a lot of those ladies, I got to do some amazing scenes with. So I'm grateful for all of them. And that's creepy that they want to make a funny club about it. But that's funny.
They, or is it Cynthia?
Oh yeah, maybe so. I don't know. Funny.
Okay, we keep joking about your lack of theater knowledge. So last week was the first week that we had our installment of the Roger Pine breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this time, instead of filming one ahead of time, I have texted you a photo of the show that you are going to be breaking down for us live.
All right.
And that show is, I'll let you pull it up whenever you're ready.
All right, bring it up.
Not wait.
I'm sorry that's so dark out here, guys. I have one light, but
we actually saw the sun kind of going down behind you.
Oh man! So, dear Evan Hansen, I know that this is a show that a lot of people like because I see it on Facebook that people went to see it. I know nothing about Dear Evan Hansen. There's a guy with a cast on in the picture. So I'm going to go with a heartwarming coming of age story of a boy who finds himself through the magic of stunt bicycle riding. And he, through the magic of song and stunt bicycle riding, even after a tragic fall, he finds his way in the world. How's that?
No.
Oh, really? Coming of age story?
Okay, coming of age story. You were on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
But man, things went real sideways with that stunt bicycle riding. Yeah, I gotta tell you, one of the reasons that we did the show is because it is one that's really popular with the teens, with the youth of the Broadway world.
Trying to appeal to our younger market.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very much of the pop music style.
Got it.
I gotta tell you, I kind of hate the story. It's not my favorite. It's kind of a downer. It's pretty heavy and depressing. Some cool music, but yeah, not my favorite. Do not recommend.
Okay.
Rodney,
So-
what do you think?
Yeah, so Josie was really into this a few years ago, and she's got like the polo shirt that he wears in the picture. It's kind of iconic or whatever, and she listened to all the music. But then she kind of got into the story, and she kind of came to the realization we didn't get to go to the show. Like I think we had planned on getting tickets, but for what, I don't know if because of this we weren't able to go, the COVID-19 we weren't able to go, or for some other reason. But yeah, she like read the book or something, and she was like, "That Evan Hansen guy, he's a jerk." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you came to that conclusion." She's like, "I don't like the show anymore." Like, okay,
He kind of
sounds good.
Isn't it weird how there's so many musicals? I mean, a musical is an enormous amount of work to make when you think about it. And so many of them start with a story that is so bad. Like, if you're going to put all that effort in, why start with a worthless, terrible story? I don't understand it, you know? So,
But
I don't know.
in the end, Roger, obviously you saw Into the Woods. You still didn't know the story. So does the story even matter, or does it just matter that there was a baker in it with Cinderella?
I mean, yes. I mean, I get that. But I feel like if you're going to go to the effort, you know what I mean? I don't know.
True.
There's a lot of stories out there, including ones with like a coherent plot. You could start with that and then write a musical. I haven't written a musical. Maybe there's more to it than that, but it just seems like you could do that, try that, you know.
Sounds like you found your next quarantine project, though.
Okay.
Nice.
For the next pandemic, I have the plan.
Pretty sure this one's going to be going on for a while, so you got time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so before we kind of move on to our Dear Daddy section, there's one request that we have. So you've played amazing roles at the theater company. You were Sir Robin in Spamalot, Vice Principal Panche in Spelling Bee. You were title character Sweeney Todd. You were Mr. Eggerman in A Little Night Music. You were in Tarzan. Bert and Mary Poppins, and then Don Quixote and Man of La Mancha. Like, you've had some incredible roles. What was your favorite thing to sing? Like, do you remember ever singing something that just really sat with you, something that you just really loved singing that you would sing again? Because we want you to sing it.
Oh, to sing that thing? I mean, a thing that would work a cappella that I enjoyed was, you know, that opening scene from Mary Poppins. You know what a great scene in Mary Poppins actually is? That scene where Bert and Mr. Banks are together, and Bert kind of is working on Mr. Banks to make him realize that, you know, his focus is not where it ought to be. And that's a really good song. Wait, what was the song though? What is he? Oh yeah. So he goes, so he kind of does this whole thing where he's like, yeah, Mary Poppins, she's crazy or whatever. And then he says to Mr. Banks, you've got to grind at that grindstone as childhood slips like sand through a sieve. And all too soon they've up and grown and then they've flown. And it's so too late for you to give just that spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down, the medicine go down, medicine go down. And then he just goes, well, good luck, governor. And then he walks off. And I thought that was just an amazing scene because as a parent and as a performer, it just really, really gets to the middle of what that show's about. So I love that song.
And it featured your favorite stage wife, Paul Early.
Yes, it did. That's right.
Full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I lived in England for a number of years. And of course, Dick Van Dyke's terrible accent for Mary Poppins is famous. And the Brits never miss an opportunity to rag on that guy's accent. So every time that I've done a British accent in a show, which is several times, I've been very self-conscious about it, actually. And that was one. And I had my friends from England watch a bootleg couple minutes of that show. And they were just like, your accent is terrible. You sound Australian. I was like, After all those years, I failed them. But I loved it. I loved that role. It was great.
Thank you for sharing that, Roger, because Mary Poppins is one of my favorites, as we all have the Camilla at the Camilla Busselberg at the theater company currently. That's one of her favorite roles to play is Mary Poppins at some point. And I said, in the last show we were in together, I said, would you be Mary and let me be Bert and we sing Jolly Holiday just backstage somewhere? And she allowed that small little snippet. So hearing that, that was amazing. Thank you.
That was a pleasure. I love that show.
Great.
Good memories.
That's a good one. All right, so this is exciting. So we have this segment, Roger, called Dear Daddy, where I have collected questions from our various theater company children that are in their 20s and 30s, questions that they may or may not ask their actual father, but they would ask their like more paternal figures from the theater. And you are also a father of two wonderful young boys, Royce and Rylan. So you get to be a part of this next Dear Daddy segment. Y'all ready?
Sure.
Yes.
Let's do it.
I guess.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start off with a lighthearted one, and then we do have a somewhat serious one in a second. Hey, Diva Dads. I'm looking to buy a car for the first time, and I'm terrified of making some big mistake that'll cost me. Do you have any tips on what to say or what to avoid? It would be appreciated.
Can I start with that? 1,
No.
Avoid going by yourself. 2, bring one of us.
You know, I hate that answer because it's accurate. And that kind of ticks me off.
Well, I don't know who that question was from. So this is like the first time you buy a car. I mean, I don't care if you're male, female, like bring one of us. 100%.
Maybe not me. Bring one of them.
Roger doesn't want to go. Yeah, and you also don't like you can't like go onto the lot and fall in love with some car and stay at that dealership and buy. You know, like you've got to go to the dealership, look at the car, and then leave. Like you really have to leave. And if you really like that car, you'll come back to it. But you can't. Don't go to one dealership and buy a car. That's a bad idea. I've done that. I did that with my FJ that's in the garage, and it turned out okay, but most of the time not so much.
So let me clarify. What you're telling our Dear Daddy listener is to treat car buying like dating.
Yes.
It's potentially a longer commitment on the back end of it. We're talking maybe many years. So
This is great.
you know,
Yes, boyfriends and girlfriends come and go, but you're stuck with that Hyundai Elantra that you purchased and are on the note for. Yes.
Diva burn to Alana because we talked a lot about her Hyundai. Dad's After Dark. Sorry, Alana.
Oh.
Okay, I have one more. So the last question was actually a friend of Hannah Ferguson, but maybe Hannah Ferguson asking for a friend. I don't know. This one is from Anonymous, and this is serious, but like a very genuine question. And I'd love for y'all your take on this. So growing up, Dear Daddy, growing up, my dad and I barely had a relationship. He made no effort to be there for me and seemed to let his problems with my mother get in the way of his responsibility to be a father. He recently, out of the blue, started reaching out in an effort to connect with me. It seems just now he's discovered that he has emotions. What? How do I go about forgiving the past and moving forward to foster a relationship with a man I always thought could care less for me?
So I had a similar upbringing. My dad, my parents divorced whenever I was little, like baby, probably still in the crib. I don't know for sure, but yeah, like even today, my dad and he lives in Arkansas and I live here, and we call each other like once a year or something like that, maybe. He comments on things on Facebook sometimes, but yeah, but the thing about if he's making an attempt, I would definitely I would be I would encourage you to let your walls down a little bit. Like keep them handy, but let your walls down a little bit, because even if you didn't put in the hard work like your mom probably did, or your stepfather, or whatever the case may be, he's trying to make an attempt now, and he may not be around later, and then you'll be the one that regretted. So that's just from my personal standpoint, dealing with my dad. That's what.
I love that answer. I think that's great. That when someone's trying to make contact with you, when someone's trying to have a connection, to be open to it. I love that. All right, we are moving on to our theater company photo of the day. Dana, are you ready for that?
Yes, we
So,
are.
Roger, I hope you can help me with this. So go for it, Dana. What we do, Roger, is we pull up, whenever you go to the theater company website, it's theatercompany.com with an RE, and scroll down to the bottom, you see some random picture from Alan Bryant's collection of theater company pictures. And so we always enjoy this little surprise.
And it looks like it's Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like that this picture showed up when Roger was here, because Roger and I had a conversation about this show. One, I'm seeing there's your Mary Poppins, Cassidy James, right there.
Yes.
Along with Hannah Ferguson, who was one of our Diva Daddy or Dear Daddy questions tonight. Look at all these wonderful theater company girls, along with two mothers. You can barely tell, but Meredith Pando and Laurel oh my gosh, I can't remember how to say her last name, but they're mothers, two grown women sandwiched in between all these teenagers. But Bye Bye Birdie is like this silly show, this silly show about this Elvis style character. It's not on par with something like Man of La Mancha. It's not heavy like A Little Night Music. It's just fun. But I remember, Roger, after you came to see the show, you said, you know what? It's nice to go to the theater sometimes and just have a laugh.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like we're entertainers as well as artists, and probably a lot of these shows, like we're 80% entertainers. And by being an escape mechanism, those other moments, the contrast makes them that more poignant, So yes, absolutely. That was a great show. That was fun. I enjoyed that one.
That was a lot of fun. Also featuring both of our stage wives, Paul Early.
Yes, that's right.
He gets around on stage. He does.
He does. He does.
All right, Rodney, you want to move on with our fun fact?
So she did such an awesome time. She did such an awesome deal. I don't know what word I'm thinking of. She did so awesome that we invited her back. Jennifer Reilly's here for our fun fact of the week.
Hey there, Diva Dads. I hope you and everyone who's listening and watching has had a wonderful week. This is Jennifer Reilly coming at you again with another fun fact. So this week's fact is that the mascot for the Arkansas School for the Deaf is the leopards, as in the deaf leopards. And I think that is absolutely genius. This is a short one this week, but a fun fact to hopefully get you all through the weekend and into next week. Hope you're staying safe, staying at home, and staying happy. I look forward to watching this week's episode. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
I love her.
I do too. That was hilarious.
That was a good one.
Def Leppard is one of my all-time favorite bands too. So just hearing that reference made me smile.
All right, Roger, as we are wrapping this up, is there any sort of parting message that you'd like to give our extended theater company family?
I said it at the opening. I miss all of you. I can't wait to hear your voices together, singing in perfect harmony, literally and metaphorically. I think you know what I mean when I say singing in perfect harmony. I look forward to seeing all of you again soon.
Perfect.
Thank you,
I think
Roger.
that's a wrap, and Dana, you want to lead us into?
Yeah. So stick around next week at this time, because after we do this every week on Thursday evenings, starting at around 9 or a little after, we have Dads After Dark, the Diva Dads After Dark on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure how all that's going to keep working, but it sure is a heck of a lot of fun. We record the first hour. We don't record the last hour.
Hours?
Okay, yeah, hours. But thank you, Roger Pine, for joining us.
Thank you.
We had a fantastic evening with you and learning more about you. I certainly cannot wait to get to see you in a show because don't tell anybody, but I actually have never seen you perform. And the only times I've seen you perform was last week on our blip that you sent in and today. So I am stoked about trying to see you perform.
It'll happen soon.
Yes, Rodney.
Yeah, Roger. We like to impress our guests to help us with shows.
Yes.
So I know you contribute to our show already with our, what was it called? The Roger Pine Breakdown. We appreciate that. But we'd really like you to help us with our next guest. So who would you like for us to check in on? Who would you like for us to, and usually this is something that we try and stretch Adrian a little bit. Like how can we challenge Adrian?
Challenge Adrian to find someone who's lives in Timbuktu or something like that.
Yeah. But somebody that you would like to see on the show.
There was a guy who I overlapped with briefly named Cameron Moser, who he was just a great talent. He was hilarious. He had great range, and he went to New York, and we got to see him a couple times there. And he's just, to me, he's one of my first heroes at theater company. So he's a guy I'd love to hear from. A guy that y'all have definitely never seen on stage either, because everyone around here has got a half-life of about 5 years. But those of us old timers from 7 years ago remember him well. He was a great talent.
That makes me so happy. And what's funny is I actually was FaceTiming him earlier this week because he and his boyfriend David ordered masks from the theater company. And so I sent them not just masks, but like any sort of random goodies I could send. And I FaceTimed them so that they could pick out their designs. And I mentioned, hey, have you watched Diva Dads yet? It's great. And at some point down the line, I can totally see us connecting you, to this current theater family. And then you just did it.
Amazing how it works out.
Yay.
It's great.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
All right. Stay tuned for Dads After Dark.
And we're heading into Dads After Dark. We will see you all next week. Look for us on YouTube. We just got a TikTok. I have no idea what to do with that because I'm an old dad. Facebook, YouTube, all your normal social medias. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.